Hey guys, welcome to the Rusty Beauties garage and to another episode of this 1967 Triumph Spitfire, which we are rebuilding the engine for and some other projects, but right now we are dealing with the engine. In the last video we assembled most of the parts. We have the crankshaft, the camshaft, pistons and connecting rods. We installed the timing mechanism here. We're converting it to a double row, so we explained what we did with the gears and with the chain. We aligned the two gears, so now we have to put the chain on. But to put the chain on, you know, this is not such a simple project. I mean, on the old gears there are marks. So this is the old gear which we cut to make a blanking plate for the fuel pump. But yeah, the old gears had marks here, and this one has two marks actually, one here, and we have a mark here on the front engine plate. So that's how it was timed in the factory. However, the new gears that you buy, even the single row ones, they don't come with marks anymore. I'm assuming that it's because they fit different vehicles. For example, the single row cam gear fits TR250, GT6, Spitfire, and who knows, I know for a fact MG Midget and stuff like that. So probably the marks for all these vehicles are different, so they just choose not to put marks, and then it's a universal gear. You can use it in any of these cars. So of course we can transfer them, we can lay down the gears and transfer the marks, but even with the marks, it's not such an easy process. It is so easy to get off by half a tooth or quarter tooth. Sometimes it's fine, but sometimes you get off. Like at the first time I tried to line up gears like that, I was off by 13 degrees or something like that. So then I educated myself a little bit and learned how to time an engine with a degree wheel, and now even if I have marks, I would prefer to do it with the degree wheel. So I made multiple videos, especially for TR6 and some for TR4 about timing, but some people somehow believe that it is too complicated. It is pretty simple process. Once you understand it, it's pretty simple process, even though look who's talking, the guy who made multiple mistakes with that. But my mistakes are not calculations. My mistakes are I put the degree wheel upside down, for example, with the bottom dead center up, or instead of after top dead center, I put the timing at before top dead center and stuff like that. So anyway, it is not so complicated once you figure it out, but there are people who just say my brain hurts and I can't do that. I don't understand it. So I decided that this time we're going to use a different method of timing the engine, which is, again, of course it needs to involve some numbers. It can't avoid numbers at all, but it is much more simple. It is more trial and error. So I'll try to do it today by involving as less numbers as possible. And the method that I'm talking about is the intake and exhaust equally open at top dead center. So let me set up myself here and I'll bring you back and I'll explain a little bit more about this method. All right, so I still need to explain a little bit of theory here, so you know why you're doing that, not only what you need to do. The goal here is to lock our camshaft and our crankshaft together with the chain in such position that the valves open at the right moment, right? Because the piston is going up, we need to have the exhaust valve open, for example, so we can blow out all the exhaust gases from the cylinder, and then when the piston starts going down, at that moment the intake valve needs to open, so it starts sucking more fuel now from the carburetors. So if the camshaft is not synchronized with the crankshaft, then we're gonna have trouble. So that's the idea of the timing. We need to synchronize the two. Once they are put in certain position, all the valves are gonna start opening in the right moment and closing in the right moment, etc., etc. So we need to find one reference point of each shaft, the crankshaft and the camshaft, and match them together and from there everything else is going to fall in place. What would these reference points be? For the crankshaft, it's going to be top dead center. As you can see here, we can turn the crankshaft and the pistons are going up and down, so we're going to work with first cylinder. So once we put the piston at top dead center, which for now it's going to be just eyeballed, but later we're going to do it precisely. But somewhere here, this is our position of the crankshaft. Now we need to find the corresponding position for the camshaft for this position of the crankshaft. So the corresponding position of the camshaft is going to be when the two valves are equally open. So now some people are going to say, but how come the two valves are equally open when they shouldn't be open at the same time? So there are details here that I don't want to go into. They're not really open at the same time, but the camshaft is in a position where the two push rods for the two valves are both a little bit lifted. Let's put it that way. The valves might not be open, but the cams on the camshaft for both valves are not in neutral position. They are a little bit higher than their lowest position. So that moment happens right at the verge between the exhaust and the intake stroke. So we have suction, compression, firing stroke, and then we have exhaust stroke. And then we go back to suction. So right here between the exhaust and then suction again, right here at this top dead center is when the two valves, the intake and the exhaust, are a little bit open, let's put it that way. The exhaust is almost closed, but not completely closed, and the intake is just starting to open, but on both cams there's teeny tiny lift. Let me put the degree wheel here. For now I'm not going to put a pointer or anything, but right now you're here at top dead center. Let's say this is where our mark is going to be. So on the standard Spitfire camshaft, the exhaust valve starts to open at 65 degrees before bottom dead center. So the engine turns this way. So if we have a pointer here, right here we are at 65 before bottom dead center. So if we take a marker here, let's take a marker. Let's take a blue one. So 65 is here, right? So now this is where the exhaust starts to open. And as it opens, somewhere here is fully open, and then it starts to close, and it continues closing until 25 after top dead center. So right here, 25. So that is our exhaust stroke. Starting here and ending here, somewhere here it is fully open. Now for our intake stroke, we're gonna do the same thing but with a red marker, and our intake is exactly the opposite of our exhaust. Right here, 25 before top dead center, our intake starts to open, and it continues to open, somewhere here it is fully open, and now it starts to close, and it continues to close, goes past bottom dead center, and 65 after bottom dead center. So right here it is fully closed. So you see where we're going now? If we come to top dead center, both valves are a little bit open. The intake just started to open, and in the meantime the exhaust is closing, so at top dead center it's a little bit open still, but the important part is that on both sides of the top dead center we have the same amount of lift on the camshaft for the two valves. So that is what we have to do. We have to find the true top dead center, not just eyeball it, and we have to find the exact position of the camshaft in which the two push rods are equally lifted. And once we have this position of the cam and this position of the crank, we have to put the chain, lock them to each other, and now as they spin, they're always going to be locked into this position. Okay, for the camshaft, we're gonna have to put 2 of our tappets on the first cylinder and 2 push rods. And then as we spin the camshaft, we're gonna be able to observe the lift on the 2 push rods, right? So here I have these, I believe these are TR6 push rods, but they should work. So I cut them and I welded a washer, and then I can put a spring here, put them down there. Okay, let's see if that's gonna work. And then I can put this plate on top, which is specially designed for TR6 and Spitfire. So the holes are ovaled, but I want to make sure that the push rods are gonna be seen. Yeah, you see how they go up and down. So now we can observe here the lift of the push rod. And we have to hold this plate down with the head studs. Okay, you can see them now. This is the intake, this is the exhaust. So let's look at the exhaust. The exhaust goes up. Now the valve is starting to open. Here it is more or less the highest point. Now it is fully open, and then it starts going down, which means now it's getting closed. And as you can see here now, look at both of them at the same time. This one is closing, and now this one starts to open. You see? So right here, somewhere right here is this point where they are equally open. So I eyeballed it. Now I'm also gonna eyeball the crankshaft. So let's do it by looking at the number 4 cylinder. So somewhere here, you see now it goes down. So somewhere here is our top dead center. Again, eyeballed. Not precise, but very, very close to that position that we're looking for. So now we can take this out and install our chain. To install the chain, we're gonna have to remove this gear, unfortunately. So we might turn it a little bit, but we're gonna try not to. So we're gonna try to keep the camshaft without turning it. We're gonna put the chain on the crank like this. We're gonna put the gear like this just to see where we land. But now we have to match the holes on the crankshaft, on the camshaft. And believe it or not, I just hit it. It is right there. The holes are there. Can you believe it? Now, this won't happen every time. That was pure luck that I managed to put the gear on the chain in such a way that the holes matched. So I'm just gonna undo it just so I can show you a real life situation. So I put it here, but my holes don't match. So now I have to start flipping the chain few teeth at a time. I don't turn the camshaft. The camshaft is staying where it was because we know that that's our position. And now I am back to that position. So it is trial and error here. You have to do one tooth at a time until you get to that position. And even we're gonna talk about the other 2 holes that you can do fine adjustments with that too, but we're gonna do that later. For now, let's put it like that. And now our 2 shafts are locked together. Where one goes, the other one goes too. Except this one is gonna spin 2 times faster than this one because it has half the teeth than this one. But that's a different story. So now we can put our degree wheel. So now we are, if not where we want to be, then we are very close to where we want to be, but we can't rely only on eyeballing. We have to verify this with a little bit more scientific way. So let's start by finding the true top dead center of the piston, which for number 1 is the same as number 4. So we're gonna go very close to where that is. Again, that's just eyeballing it, but we are close to there. And now we're gonna put a pointer here. And now without turning the crankshaft, I'm gonna turn only the degree wheel. I'm gonna make it 0.0 right here. And now I'm gonna run a screw here into my degree wheel. I had somewhere a screw before, right here. I'll show you later how it's made. Okay, I can still fine-tune it. Oops, I'm turning the crankshaft now. Okay, so my degree wheel is now positioned in such a way that when it shows 0, we are at visually top dead center. But let's make it precise now. What we can do is we can turn a little bit in any direction the crankshaft, and I have this bolt here which I can put in this hole. This is called piston stop. The hole is threaded. I made the threads there, and it doesn't matter how far I go as long as it protrudes a little bit below top dead center. Like you see, this is my number 4 piston, but number 1 is at the same depth. So now if I tighten this nut, because now it's shaking, but I want it to be solid there, so I have this nut underneath that I can tighten. And now it is nice and solid. So now if I bring the piston back up, like you can watch this piston, I'm bringing it back up slowly, but because this bolt is protruding underneath now, I can't go anymore. The piston stop has stopped the piston in certain height. We don't know how high, but it stopped it there. So we can take a look at the degree wheel now, and this is telling me that we are at 32 degrees after top dead center. This means that if we bring this piston down and bring it up again, but turning the crankshaft in this direction, so you see now the piston goes down, and if we keep going, it goes all the way down, and now it starts coming back up, and it keeps coming up, and now it is almost there. So now any moment now, our piston stop is gonna stop the piston from going up there. And if my degree wheel is positioned perfectly, then we should be at 32 degrees from top dead center on this side as well. We were 32 on this side, so we should be 32 here, but we are not. We are at 30, almost 38, 37 and a half actually. So we have 5 degrees difference between this side and this side. So we have to split these 5 degrees into 2 and keep 2.5 degrees on this side and 2.5 degrees on the other side. So this means that we have to be, this is 37 and a half. So if we move the degree wheel without moving the crankshaft, now it can't move anyways. So if we turn this to 35 degrees, we're also moving it for the other side as well. So now if we go again backwards, so now instead of 35, instead of 32, it should stop at 35 as well. Let's see. And that's 34. So half a degree. I'm gonna move it again. Okay, that is 34 and a half. Now if I go the other way again, this is 34 and a half. So now the piston stops the piston at the same distance on both sides of top dead center. This is telling me that if now we remove this and we go to 0, which is right here, this is our true top dead center. So now we have a way to always bring the crankshaft to true top dead center. We can turn, we can do whatever we want, but we know that if we put it at 0, that's our true top dead center. So now we have to be very careful not to touch the wheel anymore, to keep it on the crankshaft without rotating it on the crankshaft anymore. We can rotate them as an assembly, but we don't rotate the wheel without the shaft or the shaft without the wheel. So that was about the crankshaft. Now we need to figure out how to find the position of the camshaft in which the two valves are equally open. So for that we're going to put dial gauges on them, 2 dial gauges at the same time. You can do it with 1 dial gauge, but you have to keep moving it back and forth. Let's see. So this valve is now closed. Now it starts to open. Fully open, and now it starts to close, and it is fully closed right here. So we can zero this gauge here, and we know that this is the fully opened, fully closed position of our intake valve. Okay. So that's our fully closed position. Let's test it again. I'll bring you closer. Starts to open now. Fully open, and now it starts to close. And it is fully closed here, right at 0. Perfect. Now let's do the same for our intake. That's the exhaust. Now they overlap, so it is hard to see them. I mean, I can see them, but I want you to be able to see them too in camera. So now the exhaust valve is fully closed as well. Let's go one more time. Let's make it open all the way. That's the intake, sorry. Let's make it open all the way. We're looking only at this one right now. So that's where it starts to open. Keeps opening, keeps opening, keeps opening, keeps opening. And now it starts to close. And right here, somewhere, now it's fully closed, and if we continue to spin it, it remains closed. So that's our 0. Let's zero it here. Okay. So as you can see here now, they're both at 0. For one, the 0 is on the left, for the other one, the 0 is on the right, but that's how you're gonna see better, I believe. So let's see what's gonna happen now. In theory, the exhaust needs to start opening first, because right now we are in our power stroke, so both valves are closed, right? So now our power stroke is over and our exhaust starts to open. It opens, it opens, it opens, it opens. Now it is fully open. In the meantime, the intake is still closed, it didn't move. Now the exhaust starts to close, and just before it is fully closed, so the intake starts to open, you see? And it keeps opening, it keeps opening, the intake, and the exhaust right now is gonna stop closing because it is fully closed, right? There you go. And now the intake continues to open, keeps opening. Now it is fully open and continues to close until it closes completely, and then both valves remain closed for a while until the exhaust starts to open again. So that's all the strokes. So what we can do now is wait until the exhaust opens and then starts to close, and just before it's closed we're gonna be at the top dead center there, and we're gonna see how much each one is open at top dead center. That's all. So there you go, the exhaust opens, continues to open, now it is fully open, now it starts to close, it continues to close, and right here our intake started to open. So now our intake is 10 thou lifted, our exhaust is 65 thou lifted. So we continue, and I'm gonna go until the top dead center here. So I know you're on an angle, but we are at exactly top dead center. Let me show you. Or a little bit after. Okay, let me bring it back. But I'm gonna go a little bit more, and I'm gonna bring it back. So, okay, this is exactly top dead center, and let's see what's going on here. So the exhaust has another 45 thou until it closes completely. It needs to go to 0, right? And our intake started to open already, but it opened 17 thou. So that's not equally open. It needs to be a little bit more. So if we continue, let's go a little bit at a time. Now we have 20 versus 40, 26, 24 versus 33, okay, right there. So now the exhaust has 28 thou until it reaches 0. The intake went 10, 20, 28 thou up from 0. So now they are equally open, but we are not at top dead center. So let's see how much that is. 6.5 degrees after top dead center. But we don't want that. We want to be at 0, or if not at 0, we want to be 2, 3, 4 degrees advanced, better than retarded. Okay, so what can we do then? Well, what we can do is remove the bolts from here. So now if we spin this gear, the camshaft hopefully is not going to spin, because they are detached, right? The gear now is not attached to the camshaft, there's just friction here. So now we can turn the crankshaft to 0. Now it is perfect 0 on the crankshaft, perfect 28 and 28 thou lift on the camshaft. Okay, but now we have a problem here. Our holes don't match. Well, what we can do is use the other two holes. Instead of these two, we can use these two, and because of, I'm not going to go into details, but because of how the gear is constructed, that's going to give us half a tooth adjustment. If we have a tooth here and here right now, when we turn it 90 degrees, we're going to have the teeth in different position. So that's what we're going to do. Gently, without moving the crankshaft, without moving the camshaft, we're just rotating the camshaft gear on the chain. Another tooth. Another one. And one more. And now I have the other two holes positioned where the other ones were before, but now my holes match. I'm still at 28 to 28 there, I'm still at 0 here, and my holes match. So I can put the bolts back. And now I can do this again just to test it. So we're gonna go, you see this one continues to close now and it's gonna go to 0. This one started to open now and it's gonna go all the way out. So you see this one now stops at 0. This one continues opening. Now it's closing. Now it's gonna stop at 0. No, it's 1 actually. Okay, so I adjusted it a little bit. Let's see how that's gonna affect us. So both closed. Now this one starts to open. Exhaust is opening. Keeps opening, keeps opening, keeps opening. Fully open. Now it starts to close. Keeps closing, keeps closing, keeps closing, keeps closing, keeps closing, keeps closing. And now the intake starts to open before this one is fully closed. And now we're gonna bring them again to 28, both of them, so that's 40 versus 20. 35 versus 25. 28 versus 28 here. And are we at top dead center right now? Yes, we are. So that is perfect. Our timing is done. You see how simple that is, guys? So if you don't like math and you don't want to do the other method that I always do, I find it more precise. That's why I always do it. But if you don't want to do that, you can do this, as long as it is the standard camshaft which has this position. The two valves are equally open at top dead center. So without even knowing the theory, without even knowing why you're doing it, you can just find the top dead center the way I showed you. You can find the position of the camshaft where the two valves are equally open, match those with the chain, adjust it if you have to adjust it by turning the gear left and right, and you're done. That's it. So that's gonna be everything for today, guys. Our gears are timed, and now we can continue with the assembling of this engine, which hopefully soon we're gonna put in the car and start for a first time after the rebuild. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, commenting, subscribing, sharing and supporting my channel, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye.